Are we all good?
Yeah.
As one half of hit radio duo Will and Woody, Will McMahon has spent the past 10 years trying to put a smile on listeners' faces. But when Will began experiencing symptoms of depression early on in his career, he had a hard time keeping up the act.
I had to try and do a comedy show while I was depressed with Woody.
Yeah.
And it's just impossible. And I would rock up and just try and hide like a lot of guys were. And I can stereotype about men, but people in general, when you've got something going on behind the scenes, your first instinct is you don't want to talk about it. It's the easiest thing to do. So I'd rock up, hide it, and then we'd get on air and we'd do a radio show, and like the show would be awful. And I would be, a lot of guys when they're depressed or anxious can just be really disagreeable. They can be aggressive, they can be detached. That would be me on air.
One of the first people Will opened up to about his battle was his co-host and best mate, Woody Whitelaw.
At what point, Woody, did you know your mate Will was having challenges?
So that was in Perth. We moved to Perth after the late night stuff and the weekend stuff in Melbourne. So I moved over to Perth and, I sensed that he maybe wasn't himself for a little bit there. And to be honest, I think I didn't really know anything about mental health at this stage, and I just assumed it's the grind of breakfast radio, as you know. We were doing breakfast radio over in Perth and he was away from home as well. So I was trying to think of logical reasons as to why he might have been a bit flat, but definitely not thinking it was something deeper like a depression. And there was one particular day I went over to his place, and I do remember the moment quite well, where he was on his bed and he was trying to explain to me quite emotionally that he actually couldn't get off the bed.
Yeah.
And that was pretty confusing for me to hear. I was like, what do you mean you can't get off the bed? And he's trying to explain it to me, and again, didn't really get it. I then went into an anecdote, and I'm always embarrassed about this, where I said to him, mate, I think I get it. I think I get it. And I said, there was one day at school.
I've got this. I can fix this.
I figured it out, and I said, mate, there was a day that I went to school, had a huge pimple. I was like, gee, I was flat that day because of this pimple. And then I was like, but mate, it went away. It was just trying to get around me, but he's going, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But again, going from there, it's been a real journey between the two of us, for me trying to understand him, for Will even trying to navigate for himself what was going on in his head. I've actually been super grateful that I could be there with him for the journey, because I've learnt so much about mental health.
And for you all to have a mate like that, who gets you and supports you that closely, that must be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I think in that position, you really just need somebody just to kind of be there with you.
Yeah.
And I remember that day on the bed. I remember it like you sort of immobilised, genuinely immobilised. But even just having Woody, I remember you were sitting on the floor. But that was the world. That was the world for me, that you were just sitting there, just willing to just hear about it from me.
By speaking out and getting the support he needed, Will has found a healthy way to take care of his mental fitness and has gone on to become one of Australia's most successful radio presenters.
Just been confirmed, pop culture's not my strength. What am I doing on a commercial radio station? It's Will and Woody!
For people listening to say, you know what, I can live with depression, have a fantastic life. Is that the case?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's about, the first step is undeniably flagging it. And I would count myself as very lucky that we had this incident where we had radio, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but I couldn't hide what I was going through behind a photocopier or a screen or a piece of machinery that I was operating. Like, I actually had to... We didn't have a choice. Like,
it comes out on air, doesn't it?
The show sounded awful. The show actually sounded awful, so we had to label it.
Yeah, we've got an idea to try and find a way to help people through this mental health crisis and this big...
Has that changed with the way you interact with your mate now that you've got that information? Has it helped you?
Definitely. Yeah, 100%.
In what way?
Well, it's just great if he messages me in the morning and says, I'm not feeling too good this morning, whatever, I just know I need to pick up and do a bit more work on that day, and I know that he may not be capable of even as simple as just bringing a whole lot of ideas today, because I know he's not in a good headspace, so I'll pitch 50 ideas, 3 of which are all right.
The daily support Will receives from Woody has proven so valuable, it's inspired Will to seek an easier way for people to open up to their mates.
I was going to ask you a question. Have you ever been dumped over text message, Darc?
I haven't, no. I'm a bit older than you guys.
Look at him. Look at him. Who's dumping Luke Darcy? Or rephrase the question, have you dumped anyone over text message?
I'm showing my age here.
No, that's okay, that's okay. Well, for anyone that has, or even, I'll broaden it out slightly, for anyone that's sent a passive-aggressive email, it's a lot easier. It's not, you're not, written communication's not encumbered with all the emotion of speaking. And that in everyday life is often seen as a blight on that person because they haven't stepped up. They haven't engaged with the emotion. They haven't been brave enough. But I started thinking, well, surely we can use that to our advantage.
Will took this concept and used it to develop a brand new app in conjunction with Gus Worland's Got You For Life Foundation called Share My Mood.
Okay, so basically the way the app works is if you wake up and you're not feeling well, then you check in with yourself. It reminds you to check in. If you say you're not well, it'll ask you if you want to share that mood with anybody else. And then in 3 clicks, you can seamlessly tell your work colleague, your partner, your best mate, exactly how you feel. And the app generates the text message for you. Often a lot of people struggle to put words on what they're thinking or how they're feeling. It'll do it for you. And the best part about it is the app will tell the person that you want to communicate with how you want them to interact. So you might want to tell them and just not have them do anything. You might want to deep and meaningful. You might want them to just act like everything's cool. So it sort of just greases the wheels on the communication without the person who's suffering having to talk at all. I wouldn't be talking about this if not for Woody. And I think that's a really important thing for people who are listening who go, hey, look, I haven't got a mental health issue. I'm not stressed, I'm not anxious, I'm not depressed. That's great. 1 in 5 people go through this. And that means if you're interacting with more than 5 people every week, then statistically, you're bumping into somebody who is. So it's really important that you're the one that looks out for it and finds a way to communicate with these people to help them shed a bit of their skin.